What's your belief about the reason the Civil War was fought?
I mean, again, I think that as we look in government, as we watch government, you have different sides, and I think that you see passions on different sides, and I don't think anyone does anything out of hate. I think what they do is they do things out of tradition and out of beliefs of what they believe is right. I think you had one side of the Civil War that was fighting for tradition, and I think you had another side of the Civil War that was fighting for change. You know, at the end of the day, what I think we need to remember is that, you know, everyone is supposed to have their rights. Everyone's supposed to be free. Everyone's supposed to have the same freedoms as anyone else. So, you know, I think it was tradition versus change is the way I see it.
Tradition versus change on what?
On individual rights and liberty of people.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about Nikki Haley, as she is going viral for having a Kamala Harris moment at a town hall in which she was asked a gotcha question by somebody that she claims is a Democrat plant, in which she basically was confronted with the question of the cause of the Civil War. Okay, what was the cause of the Civil War? And Nikki Haley absolutely face planted when trying to answer this clear and obvious gotcha question. Take a look.
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not ready to president. I want to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And then in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? Nikki Haley clearly, for whatever reason, doesn't really want to articulate a detailed answer in regards to her opinion on the origins or the causes of the Civil War for whatever reason. And my gut feeling is because she is from South Carolina, and because South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union, okay? I think that's probably why, right? I think that she's not trying to upset some of her constituents with that answer, right? I think that she's trying to play politician, and in an attempt to try to play politician and to wordsmith her way through a question that, in my opinion, is a pretty stupid question, because I don't understand why that person would ask that question in the first place at a town hall about the issues of 2023, right? I think that was a stupid question. I also think that Nikki Haley's answer was pretty stupid, but it wasn't stupid because she didn't mention slavery. It was actually just stupid because she didn't say anything, right? So it was a stupid question and a stupid answer, okay? I definitely think that the person that asked her that question saw footage of Nikki Haley and her answers before in the past when asked about the origins of the Civil War, the causes of the Civil War. And I think that they basically tried to use that against her. And now the mainstream liberal media is covering this. This has went viral because of Nikki's answer, non-answer. And she's now responding to the backlash for not mentioning slavery in her Civil War comment. So let's watch coverage here from MSDNC, because we already know how they're going to feel about this, and then go from there.
Well, she's taking every opportunity she can, Alex, to try and clean this up and explain that, of course, she knows that slavery was a root cause of the Civil War, but she was trying to expand upon that basic premise. Listen to how she explained it during her first campaign event this morning.
Of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's unquestioned. Always the case. We know the Civil War was about slavery. But it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual. It was about the role of government. For 80 years, America had the decision and the moral question of whether slavery was a good thing and whether government, economically, culturally, any other reasons, had a role to play in that. By the grace of God, we did the right thing, and slavery is no more.
So it took her a little bit to get to that point. This was an answer to a question this morning. She started out her town hall by right away addressing this issue. And then earlier in the day, she actually was part of a radio interview in New Hampshire where she was asked about this. And she even suggested that the person who asked the question may have been a plant by the Democratic Party in an attempt to try and trip her up. At the end of the day, though, it was a pretty straightforward question, of which she left out slavery as being a key part of what led to the Civil War. And now she's spending most of today trying to clean that up, Alex.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that. Okay, so the liberal media is making a big deal out of this. I personally, again, I think that the question in and of itself is stupid in the sense that it doesn't have anything to do with what's actually going on in the country today. So I don't understand why that person would ask that question unless they were some type of plant that was there to try to trip Nikki Haley up. Again, I hate to play a low defense for Nikki Haley because I really can't stand her. But at the same time, you know, I got to call it like it is, right? I think that the question was stupid. I think that her answer was lackluster. She went full Kamala Harris word salad. I think the perfect answer to that question would have been Democrats, right? What do you think was the cause of the Civil War? Democrats, right? Democrats were the cause of the Civil War. I think that would have been a better answer than what Nikki Haley said. But when you talk about the causes of the Civil War, you know, obviously this is a conversation that are going to spark people to talk about it. I do think that you can talk about the causes of the Civil War without going on these long diatribes about how slavery is bad and slavery is evil, because that's the point, right? The point is to basically make Nikki Haley answer a question that, you know, in their minds, she can't really get right, because they believe that, well, if she doesn't really answer the question without mentioning slavery, then, hey, she looks like, you know, she's racist, right? She looks like a Confederate. But if she does answer the question and she starts mentioning slavery and talk about how bad slavery is, then according to the left, that's going to make her look bad with the racist in the Republican Party, okay? Which, you know, that's the whole point of her being asked that question. I think personally that I would say that preservation of the Union and states' rights were the key causes of the Civil War. Now, obviously, slavery played a role in that, a major role in that. But Lincoln himself said that, look, if I could preserve the Union without freeing a slave, then I would. If I could preserve the Union while freeing some slaves and not freeing others, then I would. If I could preserve the Union while freeing all slaves, then I would. And so in my mind, right, I mean, just, you know, from Lincoln's words, I think his key objective was not necessarily to free the slaves as much as it was to preserve the Union. Now, I think freeing the slaves was a part of the strategy from the North in order to help with the numbers that were needed to invade the South and to win the Civil War. Okay, I think that you can't forget the economic and political factors that went into the Civil War, because the slave states in the South were losing power. Okay, you're talking about a time in which the country was expanding westward, and there were a number of issues in regards to new states and whether or not they will be free or slave states. And what was happening was that the South was losing political power, okay, as westward expansion was occurring, to the point where they rightly feared that, hey, these people, the North, they're going to get so powerful that they're just going to be able to take away our slaves, right? And slaves were essential to the Southern agricultural economy, right? Cotton, you know, things like that. The North, on the other hand, was industrializing, okay? They had factories. The economy of the North was getting more powerful. It was getting bigger. And the South, when Abraham Lincoln was elected, feared that, hey, this guy is explicitly against slavery. Therefore, we have to succeed, because he was able to win despite the fact that Abraham Lincoln wasn't on, I believe it was like 10 ballots or something like that in the South, right? So he wasn't even on the ballot in some of these southern states, and he still was able to win, okay? So the South was like, you know, South Carolina was like, hey, we got to succeed because the North, they're getting too powerful, right? The free states are getting too powerful, okay? So, again, I think it's deeper than just, oh, well, slavery. I think that there are political and economic factors as well, too, that, people tend to not talk about when it comes to the issues between the North and the South and states' rights. Do states have the rights to govern themselves, and to what extent, right? To what extent do states have the right to govern themselves? And I think that is really the fundamental, kind of cause or reasons behind the Civil War. Clearly, obviously, slavery played a key role in that, okay, because slavery was a fundamental question in regards to whether or not states have the right to enslave people, to have unpaid and free labor like that, which, again, was essential to the economy of the South. So yeah, I think it's more complex than just shouting slavery, right? Because even in Union states, there were slaves. So what you have here is basically, multiple parts of the country that have competing economic interests, okay, with the North and the South. Mainly, again, when you talk about railroad expansion, tariffs, economic policy, all these things play a factor into why the Civil War happened, okay? I mean, their economies were essentially opposed to each other in regards to how they wanted to do things and to operate. And they both saw each other as potential threats to their own future economic prosperity, okay? And, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think, slavery obviously was clearly a key role in that, right? When we're talking about the economy, again, other political factors, cultural factors, things of that nature, all of that stuff plays a part in it. I just think that Nikki Haley should have just stuck with that, right? She should have just stuck with that answer, okay? Or saying something like that. But the word salad, though, was really a unforced error on her part that has a lot of people scratching their heads about Nikki Haley and her knowledge on these issues, because it reminds me of the moment at the GOP debate where Vivek Ramaswamy questioned Nikki Haley's knowledge on the war in Ukraine, right? Can she even name any of the regions or provinces that she wants us to essentially fight so hard to defend, right? To send American taxpayer dollars and maybe soldiers to defend. She couldn't name them, right? She couldn't name any. She didn't know anything about it. So I think in this situation, though, I don't think she's ignorant. I just think that she's trying to play politics, and she should have known that that was a gotcha question. And I think that she should have been more prepared in regards to just saying what, a normal person would typically say in a situation like that. But again, I think she was trying to kind of ride a fine line between giving some vague answer, like vaguely acceptable answer in regards to the causes of the Civil War, and not explicitly mentioning slavery, because there are some people, that believe that, hey, slavery was not a key cause of the Civil War, okay? And there are some theories out there. There are some arguments that, hey, slavery was not one of the primary motivating factors for why the Civil War happened. So again, I think that this was more politics than anything, but regardless, I think that this question was dumb, okay? I don't think that this question was appropriate in that form, even though I do think it's important for politicians to know our history, but it wasn't asked from an intellectual standpoint, right? It was actually asked from a political gotcha standpoint, and it doesn't really have much to do with what's going on today. And it just sparked an unnecessary conversation that, really is a no-win for Nikki Haley in this situation. So, hey, it is what it is. Turns out that, trying to word salad your way through everything is not the most desirable, response to questions. Sometimes you just need to be straight up and answer a question and stop playing politics. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.